Hi, I'm Jane Wesman, your book marketing pro. Today, I am speaking with Josh Bernoff. He's the author of many books, including Build a Better Business Book. But our conversation today is going to focus on a comprehensive study of the return on investment of writing a business book. And Josh worked on this project with other people. Yes, Josh, please tell me, everybody who was behind producing this incredibly important and interesting study.
Yeah, so in the spring of 2024, I got approached by two serious players in the book publishing business. That's Dan Gerstein, who's the CEO of Gotham Ghostwriters, and Naren Aryal, who is the CEO and founder of Amplify, a hybrid publisher. And together with two other sponsors, they agreed to produce what we hoped would be the most comprehensive survey ever done of business book authors and how they make money. So that's what we undertook to do. We surveyed over 300 business book authors, and we published the results in a report that I ended up authoring in the fall of 2024.
So I find the results of this study really interesting. As I've told you before, when I've written about and spoken quite often about the value of writing a business book, and I often see a business book as a marketing tool for a person's consulting firm or whatever business they're in, as a way of branding themselves and as an important way to get their thought leadership out there. But this study shows that there actually is a financial return on investment. Can you tell us a little bit about the data that you came up with?
We tried to uh, survey people not only about the investments that they made in business books, things like paying for editors, paying for graphic designers, paying for public relations folks, but also to try and capture all of the value that they got. Did they have more speaking, paid speaking arrangements? Did they generate more consulting? Did they generate more business for their companies? And so that allowed us to get an actual measurement of the level of profitability of books. And what I can tell you based on that, sort of the two top line results are one, 64% of the people in the survey found that uh, writing and producing a business book was profitable for them once they accounted for all of the sources of revenue. And second, the median profit from a business book was over $11,000.
That's really interesting. Over $11,000 in the first year or longer term?
Well, we tried to account for the whole lifetime of the book. So, no, that includes the whole lifetime of the book. And one of the things that's really important to understand and is visible in this study is that there's enormous variation. We had people who made millions of dollars off of their books, and we had people who actually ended up spending $180,000 more than they brought in the books. It varied based on everything, that the publishing model, the amount that they invested in publicity, uh, really an awful lot of variation. And we tried to figure out which elements were most likely to be correlated with profit for these authors.
And what elements were most likely correlated with profit?
Well, I can tell you one thing, which is that traditionally published books generate more profit on average than other books, but hybrid published books, that is a publisher that you actually hire to publish your book, come close. Self-published books definitely are inferior in terms of generating profit just because they have a much lower impact. But some other things that we saw that were correlated with higher profits included one is hiring a public relations firm. I'm sure you're surprised
Yay!
to hear that.
Yay!
Um, Having a ghostwriter was also correlated with profit. So was having a clear strategy for generating revenue was also correlated with a higher profit.
The self-published books don't seem to do as well as hybrid. published books as well as books published by traditional publishers. Why?
It's interesting that you ask that now because literally within the last 2 days, I have been doing a detailed analysis of the different publishing models and what causes people to be successful. Um, and I'm not necessarily going to say that self-publishing causes you to have a lower profitability. But what it's correlated with is people who self-publish, they invest less in everything. They invest less in editing. They invest less in the cover design. They invest less in the public relations and promotion, and as a result, they have a lesser impact. Now, it's also true that self-published books don't have the level of distribution. They're typically not available easily from bookstores or from a place like bookshop.org. So uh, when you look at the hybrid published books, because you are working with a serious publisher, they take care of a lot of that stuff. It's significant cost to work with a hybrid publisher, but the people who invest in a hybrid publisher are also likely to invest in all the other things that make a book successful. And what do you know? If you invest in the things that make a book successful, it's a lot more likely to be successful.
And why are books that have a ghostwriter often more successful than books that have been written by the business person themselves?
One is that people who invest in a ghostwriter, and a serious ghostwriter is going to cost you probably at least $50,000. Well, if you're going to spend $50,000 to get a book written, you're probably not going to cheap out on things like public relations uh, or promotion or all the other things that you need to do to get the book out there. So the people who invest in ghostwriters are much more likely to invest in other things. I also think it's the case that ghost written books are well written books. So it's hard to be successful with a book if it's poorly written. And with a ghostwriter, if they're a professional, you're likely to get a solid job. Now, if you hire a cheap ghostwriter, you'll get a crappy job. But if you hire a serious ghostwriter, you'll get a better job. Now, people who want to write the book themselves, especially if you work with a developmental editor, you're still likely to be able to have a successful book. You don't have to hire a ghostwriter to be successful.
So let me repeat that again.
Yeah.
What you're saying is you don't need somebody to completely write the book for you, which is a ghostwriter, but you could work with a developmental editor who helps you write the book and helps you figure out what will make a good book. And I want to throw back at you your
Mm.
concept of how you plan the chapters of a book.
Mm.
I think I always find that interesting. Please tell us.
The first thing to point out here is that the act of planning the chapters ahead of time by itself is much more likely to help you succeed. And these people who just write stuff and like try and put it together and make it make sense, that doesn't really work. You wouldn't assemble a car by throwing a bunch of parts together and hoping that it worked. You have to plan it. But the the chapters should tell a story, and each chapter should answer a question. So the first chapter answers the question, why should I care about your book? Uh, but the other chapters will answer questions like, what are the first steps here? How can I convince my boss? What kind of things can go wrong? What technology do I need to use? I mean, it really depends on the book. But by structuring your book with one question that you answer for a reader in each chapter, you make sure that that chapter specifically fits in to a story that will carry people along.
So you're saying that each chapter answers what I'm going to call a big question. This is why you need to think about this. This is what could go wrong or what could be right. And then this is how you implement it, maybe step by step. So something like that. So there's a flow, almost in a way like a storyline, like a narrative.
I I
Yes?
I can't resist sharing this. When I sent my first book proposal to an agent, this was back when I was an analyst at Forrester Research, he came back and he said, I can't sell this. I said, why? I'm an expert in this topic. This is fascinating. He's like, nah, it reads like a research report. Like, well, what do you need? And he said, well, business books are stories. You need people and stories. And so that's what you need to be able to sell it. And I just thought, oh, I can do that. So I did, and that resulted in a first book that was pretty successful for me. But that's what people need to understand, is that it's not just about the logic. It's not just about the instructions. It is about the people and the stories, and that's what makes it come alive.
Josh, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks. It was really my pleasure to talk to you and to work on this research report. So, yes, to the extent people can download that and get a look at it, I think you'll find it extremely valuable.
Thank you, Josh.